show for all your latest UFC news and rumors. It's Brian Coyle. It's Sean Stanley. It's the TFM Live podcast. And it's now. And yes, it is now. It's Thursday. We usually do this on a Wednesday. Tonight it's a Thursday, but it's Sean Stanley here with you in beautiful downtown Miami. And now I'm going to welcome into the broadcast my partner, Brian Coyle, and he's not in Miami. He's, where are you at this week?
I'm in beautiful New Jersey. It's nice out, dude.
Is it?
This is weird. It was like 70 degrees when I came home from the city today. It was fantastic.
That's considered a heat wave, right?
It's weird. I don't know. I don't get weather anymore around here. But you know what? Also, I don't understand what the hell is going on in the UFC. It's UFC 197 this week. John Jones comes back. It's kind of a big deal.
Not anymore.
Nobody cares.
Not anymore. It's not.
Nobody cares because of this ongoing saga between Conor McGregor and the UFC. I was sitting in the CBS News offices. What is this, Tuesday now? Yeah. Yep. Tuesday. 2:30. All of a sudden, I see on my Twitter timeline, Conor McGregor tweets, "I have decided to retire young. Thanks for the cheese. Catch you later." My first thing I think of, who says thanks for the cheese? He's obviously hacked. This doesn't make any sense at all. And then it kind of just sits there for 10 minutes, a half hour, an hour, 2 hours. Like, what is going on? And then we get this whole big thing. Dana White's on SportsCenter Tuesday night. They've pulled him from UFC 200. This story is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in sports, let alone UFC.
But isn't it a classic example of mine is bigger than yours?
Yes, it is a contest of some sort. That's definitely for sure. And if you haven't heard the story at this point, I would be surprised because McGregor's tweet was tweeted over 160,000 times or something absurd.
Yeah,
the most tweeted tweet by an athlete in the last couple of years. And now we seem to be at a complete impasse. Conor McGregor unretired today because, that's good. We'll get into his whole statement and everything and what position we're in at right now because nobody knows exactly what's going on with this fight. But Sean, what was your initial reaction you see? Because I was just like dumbfounded about how this exploded.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I looked at it and I had to look twice. And I was like, wait a minute. Because, I get the updates and things like that. And I'm like, this can't be right. But then I'm looking at it going, well, I wouldn't have got the update if something wasn't probably confirmed. And then I started looking into it and I went and a timeline. And then, I saw we had some inner office, text going back and forth at that point too. So, I really couldn't believe it. I was just like, really? This can't be happening. And then, of course, Dana White, what happened there, and then he's off of 200, and it's kind of like, all right, wait a minute, something else is going to happen here, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah, White pulled McGregor Tuesday night from 200, saying Conor didn't want to fulfill his promotional contractual obligations. He didn't want to go to Vegas for this press conference they're having tomorrow. By the way, we're recording this you can hear us live right now, but if you're listening to the podcast, we're recording this Thursday night, so everything could have changed by the time where you actually listen to this. Yeah. McGregor could still be on the card.
Yeah, he might
they could have a new main event. Who the hell knows at this point?
Well, didn't Nate Diaz come out and retire too? So the whole main event has retired.
He said he had nothing else to do.
Yeah,
which. I mean, Nate Diaz can go out and sell.
Well, actually, he said my job here is done.
Yeah, I mean, unless he's selling wolf tickets, dude, this is not like this isn't a thing for Diaz to do. He's hurt the most by it, because he was going to get the McGregor payday, and I mean, if he even got GSP or something like that, this fight is not the biggest fight that they could make without Conor McGregor. It's not even close.
No, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And look, now he might not even be on the card or whatever. I mean, if he really retired, I guess it's whatever. But And it kind of puts the UFC at a crazy position because this is UFC 200.
This is it. This is the big one. This is everything that they've been preparing for. And you pull McGregor based on what seems to be a line in the sand that the UFC has obviously drawn, saying that nobody's bigger than us. And if McGregor, who made some, like, they made this out to be Conor didn't want to do any media whatsoever, which, mind you, Conor McGregor is the biggest freaking deal in fighting right now. Period.
Yeah, but see, this is the monster they've created.
Yeah, you asked for this, Dana White.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it is. I mean, and he came out today and really kind of didn't he kind of with the text and stuff he sent out today, kind of let you know that that's exactly what the problem is. He said, "I'm paid to fight, not paid to promote."
I think Conor McGregor realized that he talked so much in that lead up to Diaz, building up that fight for Dos Anjos, actually. Mm-hmm. And he got tired, and it kind of waned on him, and he got choked out. And I think it kind of hit him like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't be doing all this stuff before my fight, because Diaz is a longer, stronger man, like he said in his whole Facebook post, which you can read part of it on the fullmountmma.com, which you can find multiple articles on this. We're all over this. And McGregor's saying, like, I'm not paid to promote. I've done 50 world tours, 200 press conferences, 1 million interviews. Obviously, he's exaggerating, but he's right at this certain point. He said there had been $10 million allocated for the promotion of this event. So he went not only saved them $10 million of promotional money, he went and tripled it with one tweet. That tweet that he sent out is going to reach so many more people. It's completely overshadowed everything in sports. Nobody cares about the NBA playoffs. Nobody cares about the NHL playoffs. People who I never thought to even ask a question about mixed martial arts were asking me all of these Conor McGregor questions today. It's the biggest thing in sports right now, with the exception of the NFL draft, maybe. This is McGregor has done exactly what the UFC would have technically wanted him to do.
Well, and do you think maybe this is in cahoots? This is part of the planning? Because what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, if he went out and he did promotions for this, what is the buildup for this?
It's funny because everyone hated this fight when it was made.
Yeah, and now this makes that fight kind of like, wait a minute, is he retiring or is he not retiring? At least it's building some kind of buzz around 200 right now.
It's either that or it's one of the greatest works of all time. It's incredible. McGregor said he would go to New York and do one of the 3 press conferences was planned. There was one in Vegas tomorrow, one in Stockton, California, because it's the Diaz brother there. And then you get New York, and McGregor's like, yeah, I'll go from Iceland to New York. I don't want to fly all the way to Vegas, all the way and go to Stockton. Like, there's ways to creatively promote this that didn't involve McGregor being in Vegas. I mean, hell, it would have been the funniest thing in the world if tomorrow you just put Diaz next to a TV with Conor McGregor's face on it and just have him talk to the TV. It would have been surreal. It would have been hilarious. It would have been fantastic. And now, over the fact, it seems like total creative control, the UFC is willing to lose a major, major payday and cut off its nose to spite its face on the biggest event that they've ever put together. I get what the UFC is like. I get their stance. I understand what they're trying to do. Fighters are independent contractors. The last thing they would want is a fighters union. This is the way they're operating their business. They make so much money, and they don't want to provide special treatment to special people because then more fighters will ask for this.
But they've already done that. That's how they've made this problem now.
You're exactly right. Like, you have to take your stars on a case-by-case basis because, I mean, John Jones is a tremendous fighter. But if you put John Jones, Daniel Cormier as the main event of 200, assuming Jones gets past Vince St. Preux, which we'll talk about later in the show, hopefully, because we have this to talk about, it's not as big of a fight. It's not even close.
No.
And I can't believe, because in my mind right now, this fight doesn't happen. The way Dana White and the UFC have been so hardline on this, I would be surprised if they actually turn back.
Well, you really can't right now, can you? Unless it is a sham.
I think they can do whatever they want.
Well, no, they can. But I mean, if you're UFC right now and you cave in after everything you've said, you don't think that sets even more of a precedent for fighters? Hey, if I stand and I balk and they really need me, you think it won't happen every main event?
See, McGregor's the kind of guy who has his power. Rousey has his power.
Yeah, but I think he lost a little bit of that power, and that's where I think this is where I think part of the problem is. UFC, in their eyes right now, he's lost some of that luster after he was choked out. In Conor McGregor's eyes, and probably rightfully so, he don't believe he's lost anything.
Yeah.
So now he's showing UFC that, hey, look, I still got that power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, but now here's the other thing is, look, you might have that power, but there's got to be a happy medium. It can't be one extreme or the other extreme, and that's what the problem is right now. It's either McGregor's way, where it's whatever he wants to be paid, or UFC's like, no, you're going to do it for this. And look, I think that hurt him last fight with Nate Diaz with all of that he was promoting, because I didn't see Diaz, other than the press conferences, he wasn't going to all these other places like McGregor was.
No. And I saw this article, this example online. I forget where I saw it. But how many times did Jose Aldo do a press conference before his fight in December at 194?
I don't think he made two. The two main press conferences, that's it.
And then remember, at that Go Big press conference, he left midway through to go to a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
How much promotion did Conor McGregor do for that fight?
Oh, I mean, he was everything.
He was everything. And now Jose Aldo is a household name because of Conor McGregor. Aldo's a tremendous fighter. He was a 10-year unbeaten streak. But nobody knew who the hell he was as a casual fan until he came up against an opponent who was so loudmouth, so brash, so popular.
Because he's not sexy. Jose Aldo's not the sexy fighter. I mean, he's not the guy. You don't get everything. You don't have the package. He's a great fighter, but that's it. He's kind of like we use it a lot here in the thing in when you look at pro wrestling. Ric Flair is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm. Like a guy can work as much as he wants, but
then you got Jose Aldo is like your Barry Windham. He's a great worker, but he was so he never got that push because he just didn't have whatever McGregor's got, and he didn't talk.
Only on the FullMountMMA.com's official podcast can you compare Jose Aldo to Barry Windham. You won't get that insight anywhere else.
No way, buddy. I was trying to think of somebody nowadays, but everybody gets pushed nowadays, I guess. I mean,
Cesaro. There's your
Slater.
answer to that one. But, this is the kind of insanity we're talking about.
No, that's exactly what it is. And it's funny because they created it themselves without even thinking about it, because I think they were so nearsighted that they're like, this isn't going to come to an end. And then Diaz made it come to a little bit of an end, and now they're trying to reel it back in, but it's too late.
They're deathly afraid of a fighters union.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Could you imagine if McGregor and Diaz came together to start that? Wow.
This is the problem here, because there's so much to talk about with this because it's opened up so many avenues.
Oh,
McGregor, once he said he was retired, quote unquote. How many fighters came up? Oh, I'll take the spot. I'll take the spot. I'll take the spot. Everybody came out of the woodwork. I'll do it for 1/10 of McGregor's price and headline UFC 200.
Yeah, but 1/10 of his price is a great payday.
I know, but people, anybody would have wanted the UFC 200 spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, John Jones said, if they want me to headline 200, I'd love to headline 200. And John Jones was in favor of what McGregor was doing. He talked about it in his media availability for 197. The fight game is so, I need to get me over before I'm not going to work with these other fighters. And there's so many promotions. That's why free agency is so interesting now. And the problem is there's no promotion. As much as Bellator wants to do this, there's no promotion that can go toe-to-toe with the UFC. There's no WCW and WWE back in the day in the Monday Night Wars, you got guaranteed contracts out of that. You saw guys working out their contract and going over to the other show. The UFC doesn't have that competition where they have to get nervous about guys leaving. Roy McDonald is going to play out his contract, but if you're going to tell me that Roy McDonald is going somewhere else, in the words of Nick Diaz, I'm selling you wolf tickets. That's not happening. Like the UFC is so powerful, and if they had just they don't have to treat their fighters better. It would behoove them to do so. And this is a kind of thing like the UFC could still be this big bad entity, and you could do a Conor versus the UFC like promotion sort of thing, and it would be the biggest freaking thing in the world. And the UFC would be raking in money, and they wouldn't care. Like this fight has become so big, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's completely overshadowed 197, which is unfortunate because that's an amazing card. But it's created this buzz, unlike anything else. Boxing is floundering. How many? When you look at Pacquiao Bradley, which was supposed to be a big fight, it did 400,000 pay-per-view buys. It was a terrible flop. You have this golden goose that you can get at least one more big fight out of, and you could look at a 9-figure revenue fight opening up a new arena in Las Vegas with all of the world looking, an amazing card setup, and you're gonna lose everything just based on your own ego and the fact that you don't want to set a precedent to make the lives of fighters a little bit better.
But doesn't it go back to what you, I believe, said last week or the week before with what was it Fertitta? You said it that
no fighter is bigger than the UFC.
Yep.
The UFC is the product.
Yep.
They have to realize UFC is a terrific organization. It's all over the place. It's got such a great talent pool. But if I'm a young fighter right now and I see this, and I see the way, how Ronda Rousey got completely burnt out, how McGregor's seemingly burnt out, at this point. Am I thinking maybe I want to go somewhere else and become this major superstar and carry the mold for this other company and become big? Or do I want to go through this UFC machine and get burnt out? Because you have to take into account McGregor is doing he called it every Tom and Susie bleeping morning show. The UFC has to realize, certain guys, you have to spread out their media appearances. Anthony Pettis talked about this today at his media bell.
You can't have the guys doing for instance, say we asked for, media, for one of the guys to come on here. We would probably get, right now, UFC would probably try to give us Conor McGregor. Whereas we would probably, get, Pettis or somebody I'm just saying, I'm using us as an example because, as you're saying, the sports centers, you see Conor McGregor. Fox Sports 1, you see Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Then you go to even the smaller things. I saw an interview by somebody from Charleston MMA show, and it was Conor McGregor was on the phone with them. And it's wait a minute. This guy, this is not even – they don't deserve to – not saying they don't deserve, but Conor McGregor should be your guy to go to Fox Sports 1, your Good Morning Americas. I think WWE – and I'm sorry I do this so much that I put them on there, but you don't see your John Cena's all the time doing the small things, they threw Titus O'Neil on with the one show on E! And things like that. They spread them out. They don't just have all their big names go and do everything. Whereas UFC, they just throw the guy everywhere.
It's a media strategy. It's the marketing strategy, and I get it. You want to overexpose these fighters because, Holly Holm she
but isn't
won the
that
title,
old? Isn't that old? That's their old school thinking. Back when they weren't what they are today, I think you had to do that because nobody knew who anybody else was. But today, people kind of know who Holly Holm is now. They know who, Pettis is. They know who, again, I don't think you want one of the Diaz brothers going on any show, but, they know who some of these people are. You don't have to just throw your big guns out there and be like, hey, look.
Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from because I get you have to realize the way your stars, if you want to create these superstars, which they have done, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They have to realize at a certain point, the less availability you give them, the more people clamor for them. The more like it's simple supply and demand.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to overexpose people, it all gets twisted. And
yep.
I just it's such a preventable thing. And if Conor backed out and wanted more money, and it's just a power play, I mean, number one, he's not his value. Is completely getting on the cheap because of how much money the UFC makes hand over fist compared to the boxing fighters and all these other promotions or whatever. If McGregor made $10 million, he'd probably still be underpaid for this card. But he was the first fighter ever to get $1 million just straight from that the disclosed payday. We don't know how much fighters make. So it's a whole weird situation, and I don't know how it's going to work out.
And it goes to another thing that, should they get paid for their, media appearances? If they put a $10 million budget aside, you don't think some of these fighters deserve some of that, especially since you took away their sponsorship money for the Reebok deal? You're doing all this, and they're not again, they're getting paid to fight, don't get me wrong. But not all of them are getting, the same amount of pay. They're not all getting these great paydays, and then you have them doing, what you feel is their, I guess, job leading up to the fight by promoting it, but they're putting money in your pockets. They're not getting any more of that. They've already agreed to the money they're getting on the fight. So why not cut them some of that money if they're promoting it so well?